And anybody else, while Jenny is taking her time to safely respond, maybe she can't, and that's okay. Who wants to share their homework they did yesterday? I
I
see
can.
Amy.
I
Hey,
can.
awesome.
My sacred space that I created in my home is actually my lawn chair because it's my place. It's always kind of sacred. So I just officially called it sacred. And I know we're not supposed to have one in our office, but I have one right there that I put up many years ago that forces me to take a vacation every year to see that. So
Got it.
I got a couple of sacred spaces.
Well, the point
Uh,
is supposed to be more than one. How about the one internally? So, what did you settle on for at least for this exercise for this week? What's the sacred space that you're working on internally?
it's probably my heart where I am with myself. So I don't know if I can really, but
Let's work on that right now. So, when you say my heart, where I am right now. So that's in the, this and by the way, this is going to go right into our vision work today. So you're doing great. Get me something specific. I want to have an idea. When you say I'm working on this sacred space in my heart with what I'm dealing with, give me a one or two sentence answer. Like, what does that
um,
space look like for you?
caring. Well, I guess maybe caring for myself. Does that? I've really been focused on that lately.
Great.
So it's been kind of my sort of my challenge.
So real quick. So briefly as possible, what is the challenge part? So what is the narrative that's there, that's the mundane part of your heart and your healing and your process? What's the mundane story that we're replacing with the sacred one, which is I'm worthy, I'm sacred, I'm learning to love myself, I'm focusing on my heart, right? What's the narrative we're replacing?
We're replacing the self doubt, you might say.
So is
I
self-doubt automatic and unconscious for you? Just it's easy for you to doubt something.
No,
Okay.
I've always been very confident, very driven, very, as you can, I set goals for myself. I do things like that. I think the issue that I've had is I've lost so many people around me just to death in these last 5 years that I don't know. It's almost, I think when I lost my father, it really hit me. And so I also know that's part of grief. So I know I'm still in that grief process, but then it really forced me to look at my life. And it forced me to look at, well, if I don't necessarily have my dad out there cheerleading me on and coaching me on and doing the things like that, I've got to learn to do that for myself. And so part of that, that's where that self doubt comes from.
Got it. So let's focus on, so from what you were telling me, the one that I want us to focus on for this exercise, if you're willing, is that statement you had. It was just really almost a throwaway, even though I'm sure it means a lot to you. The I know that grief is part of it. I have to go through it, right? The grief is
Mhm.
there. Remember you said something like that? Is that pretty much close to it? So
There.
consider that that is becoming an unconscious thought now, that that might be holding you back because Anthony, I'm going through this, and then this would happen to my dad, and yeah, I'm aware of all these things, and but that grief, you got to hold on that grief. It's kind of got like a almost like you're relishing it or think that it's supposed to be there. Potentially that. So thank you. So is there a potential that when it comes to working on yourself, creating that sacredness in your heart, that we can make this an affirmation that replaces this idea that I have to grieve, I have to be suffering as part of my
Mhm.
healing process. Does that make sense now where the mundane is this, it's been there for a while, maybe it's automatically there. I can validate it that it's supposed to be there. And can we switch that?
Well, I think there at times I see it as a beautiful thing and I see it as, but then I think maybe you're right. Maybe that's what I'm doing. Maybe I'm subconsciously you think I don't know. That's just something to
You're
think
doing
about.
great.
That's
So
something to think about.
I want you to think about it. And again, staying curious is where all the power is, honestly. It's not about removing this. Just listening to what I'm saying is, oh, you're right, I need to get rid of this. We
Mhm.
want to make sure there's balance. And unfortunately, oftentimes the idea of honoring my grief can be unbalanced. So we're not getting rid of it, we're not erasing it, but we're saying, hey, for me to know that I'm sacred, I'm worthy, I'm whole just as I am, we need to fill that hole potentially is there because, as you said, without my father's support, right? So can you see that potential?
Yeah, I definitely do, and it may be why. One of the things that I keep repeating to myself is I'm where I need to be. I am where I am supposed to be. And I keep repeating that to myself. And in a way, it calms me. It makes me feel better. It can still creep up on me. You know what I mean? It still can.
Everything is valid.
I can see it. And so I do repeat to myself, you're where you're supposed to be. You're learning something from this and you're growing. And so yes, I do say that to myself.
That's
But
really
it,
beautiful. So, I mean, remember, everything you've gone through is valid. We're not discounting any of it.
right.
We're looking at, has that part served its served its purpose? And it might have, right? It's time to go to the next stage, which might mean letting that go, right? Because as again, it's a journey, ascending, and we have to let go of attachments. And sometimes there are attachments that saved our life. But when we want to keep going on the next thing, if we're looking at a career, it's usually easier to see that when we let go of something as part of our advancement, we logically put that together. But we have a harder time doing it personally within our heart, which is why we have this exercise as number one. So thank you. I'm glad you're putting that together. So keep working on it. And the idea of the physical sacred space is to make sure that you never pass by that area ever again without consciously going, whatever it is that you replace that grief with, right? I'm worthy, I'm whole, I'm loved. Stopping yourself and really embodying it, not just an idle affirmation. We're going to talk about inner dialogue on Thursday, and affirmations work, but we have to embody them. So we're learning to create the mental capacity to do the work that we're going to get into further and further along for the rest of our lives. Thank you so much, Amy. Thank you for that feedback. Jenny said, always hated looking in the mirror. So I'm trying to change that. Oh, beautiful. I just want to comment on that, Jenny, as you're driving, give you some feedback, right? So always hating looking in the mirror, right? That's a big piece of reality creation. We are pushing away our relationships, the people in our lives, because we won't look at ourselves. Because to say, I made a mistake, we have maximized it. I'm the worst person in the effing world. I made a mistake versus I'm responsible for where I'm at today, how I'm feeling today. Great. I'm going to be empowered by that. I'm not going to shame myself by that. So I love it. By learning to look at yourself in the mirror, it can be very confrontational. Even doing the work that I do, I can still go to the mirror sometimes and cause myself to cry when I ask myself the question that I may be hiding from, or it's the new question that is challenging me to let go a little bit more so I can allow more to come in. Thank you, Jenny, for jumping in on that. Now, we have a Zoom user that came on camera. I saw her face, but I don't know her name. I wanted to see if you wanted to offer up your homework. She kind of walked away, though. So anybody else want to talk about their homework from yesterday? Gabrielle, beautiful. Come on down.
Here I am. Great.
Hi.
So I love this stuff. So I've been working internally on sacred space. I have a lot of quote unquote sacred things in my home, times and spiritual symbols and stuff like that. But my mental negativity gets in the way of that. So what I've been thinking about is creating mealtime. That's something I do, I don't know, a few times a day. This counter I use where I do my meal prep for myself, the family, my daughter. There's a lot of negativity stuff that comes in my mind when I do that because it's like dead mental space. And I'm usually in worry mode or do mode or what I have to do for the day and stuff like that. So I've been thinking about making that space, my sacred, that counter space, a time that I can reflect positively. But since yesterday, I've been doing more positive affirmations and self mantras. I am worthy. I can't remember them specifically, but I use the word manifesting, empowering myself, things like that. So that's kind of where what I'm working on. These aren't new concepts to me, but the problem is that consistency and reliability creates the most growth for me. So I do them for a period of time and then I like wax and wane. So I'm really working on my relationship. Just say this briefly, listening and being more present because I'm not very present. And I'm a multitasker, which is a beautiful thing, but I don't generally do one thing at a time. So I would be more productive doing one thing at a time and working on being present when my daughter's talking to me, when my husband's talking to me. So last night when I got home from work, I stopped what I was doing and I really listened to everything he wanted to tell me about the day and stuff like that. So I'm trying with the sacred space to use these positive mantras, help myself mentally to show up in the way that I want to, and then to act in the way that I want to. So that's kind of where I'm at with the homework.
That's beautiful. And so what we're doing, what I'm hearing you say is you got the concepts down. You're working on consistency. So to me, that's integration. You heard me talk about integration a lot yesterday. By doing the mental work that you're doing specifically differently yesterday, and then attaching that to the physical, this new physical sacred space, which is your meal prep area, that's going to create that mental habit at least 3 times a day, right? Or at least once a day, something like that, that you can do the affirmations specifically then, regardless of what's going on. And for you, not multitasking.
Yes,
So I can see that's already a mental discipline to work on as you're doing your meal prep. You're honoring, you're loving
yes,
yourself. You're saying, I am worthy. I am manifesting. I've already manifested these things, XYZ. And then as you move through the rest of your stuff, i.e., listening to your partner, listening to your children, you're automatically going to be building that muscle up without the event being a requirement. And that's why I love this process. It's completely driven by you. So when you have to pay attention to your lover who's today needs you to be present for them, even though you got 100 things going on, you've built the mental discipline to spend the next 15, 20 minutes just listening and not responding. So I think it's great what you're doing. Does that sound like we're on track?
yes, because that's something that I really struggle with. And my husband is a beautiful soul, and he says to me, I feel like you're missing the mark. I just want you to listen to me. And so I think that a lot of times, for me at least, it's like I think I'm doing a great job because I made dinner or I did this or I'm bringing money home or whatever. But then all that stuff goes wayside when he needs me emotionally and I'm not available. Or he's having a bad day and I'm not there to listen. He wants to problem solve something with our daughter Shayna and I'm mentally in a, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm working on is showing up and like getting out of my headspace and getting in that love energy and that open energy and that present energy to be there for him.
That's great. When we
So
talk
yeah,
about the shield tomorrow, it's going to help you with that because the shield
cool.
also does a lot of what we're talking about and it really relates to what I'm hearing you say. So thank you so much for chiming in, Gabriella.
Okay.
Appreciate
Okay,
you.
cool.
And love the feedback. I got 3 people emailed me, and Gabrielle's one of them about the session yesterday. So I'm really happy everyone's here. And again, I think everyone here is brand new as of yesterday. So this is a different style for me. just talking without having every damn thing scripted and going slide by slide by slide. Because again, I'm not a marketer, I'm a relationship guy. I'm a spiritual guy. I want to help break through. So we got to be more visceral and more connected. So I appreciate the support as I'm trying something new myself. So I would love to just keep talking about this. However, now we're getting close to the halfway mark. We're going to pivot and shift to today's lesson. So let's focus up. If you have the ability to have your PDF, we'll reference it later. But for now, just to stay here with me and let's focus. Remember, as I'm talking, please type in the answer to this question. I said, I want you to pick something that you want to get out of this week, a relationship, out of the boot camp, picking something specific. And I remember I went really overboard with saying, don't allow yourself, at least for this week, to say, I don't know. So I want to encourage you to please type in the comments something that you want to focus on as part of your vision for the week so that I can see what's going on, where we're all at, because it's going to help as we move forward into creating our program for visualizing a reality. Because clearly we can't visualize it if we haven't picked it. If you want me to know your name and your thing says Zoom user, go ahead and change your name so that if I call on you, I'm not just saying, hey, Zoom user. If you don't want me to call on your name, then don't worry about that. That's okay too. Love it, Gabrielle. Listening to when my daughter and husband talking, stop, open with love and listen. Great, beautiful. So you want to be more present. You want to be more open. You want to be more safe and secure. So listen to them and present for them. That's beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else commenting on what it is you want to accomplish this week in your relationship or anything? Because the specifics matter. So Gabrielle, if you'll come back on real quick, Jenny, I want to feel like I'm worthy of the voice. Got it. Gabrielle, are you there? So real quick, I want to demonstrate this when I ask you some questions, if you're open. If you're there still, Gabrielle.
Yes, I'm here.
Beautiful. So when you say listening when my daughter and husband are talking, want to
Yes.
stop, be open with love and listen. So give me a 30-second scene of what that would look like if I couldn't read the words.
So what it would look like is in the morning, I have ADD. So sometimes just focus is really
So
hard
just
for me.
describe the scene. I'm going to interrupt you on
Yep.
purpose
So
because
the
I'll do it
scene
anyway.
is I'm
Great.
here, I'm cooking, my daughter's calling my name, I'm not hearing it. I'm busy doing stuff. Mommy, you said a second ago we were gonna go do this. Da, 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 da. The seconds passed. Da, da, da. And I'm just sometimes not hearing it because I'm in
Great.
my
So
own brain.
stop there,
That's
start
like,
over in the morning, making breakfast, and I hear my daughter speaking to me because right, you affirmed the problem. So start over.
so I heard my daughter speaking to me,
When? In the morning?
and
Great. What are you wearing?
I am wearing, I don't know, like my robe if I haven't showered yet, or I'm wearing my dog is just where they're not supposed to be. I'm wearing pants and I'm dressed for the day or I'm in process.
Right. So for this exercise, I want you to pick
Yes,
something, right? A red shirt, a blue shirt. I'm wearing my robe. I haven't showered, right? It's
yes,
7:30 in the morning. I'm making breakfast and I hear from the right-hand side my daughter speaking to me, right? And I can actually hear the voice resonating in my eardrum and I am turning towards her. Give me an example here, right? I'm turning to the
uh-huh,
right and I'm looking at
yes,
her with my own eyeballs. See, that's a whole different story.
yes.
Right? We're
Understood.
affirming it as if it's already done.
Right.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. So I'm gonna
Do that. I'll come back tomorrow.
got it.
Tell you what.
Awesome. I
Okay,
want to
awesome. Great.
feel like I'm worth of what I would love to hear, Jenny. Feel free to give me more specifics on that, and I'll comment because you're still driving, and I'm gonna come back to you. So what did I just do? I got Gabrielle to describe the scene, not with the problems, not with the ADD, not with her challenges. We've already heard enough story to know what her challenges are. We're not here to affirm our disempowerment. We're not here in this group to affirm our limited beliefs, right? We still go to our doctors. We still go get checkups. We still see a psychiatrist if we have one. We're not discounting that. We're making sure that we're attacking and applying concepts because we are multi-dimensional beings. We're not just in a meat suit. We are in a meat suit, but we're also living a spiritual unlimited experience that goes on forever. And we're all also the same. We're all part of God, source, and the universe. So it's about being balanced. So here I'm hoping that you get more balance and lean more to the spiritual work because it's so easy to work on the 3D stuff. It's in our damn faces all the time. It's in our relationships with our partners and our children, as Gabrielle is beautifully demonstrating, right? She's aware of what she wants to work on. I'm wanting to encourage her and everyone else for this week. Don't focus on the challenge, focus on the end result, right? Allow faith to do the work, allow the mountain to be moved. Find out what the steps are after they've already happened versus using our limited human mind, why, right? Which says, I have a learning disability. I have an emotional regulation issue. I have trauma. My partner has a mental disorder. Therefore, this doesn't work, right? How is it going to work, Anthony? That slows the process down. Again, we're not ignoring it, but we're not going to lean heavily into it for these processes. So that's where we're coming from. Now, I want to look at my notes a little bit here so I can keep on track. What is the concept here I want you to get more than anything? You're not going to have to do any work to get better at manifesting. You don't need to work on that. You are already a professional athlete level master manifester because that's why I'm teaching you these processes. Today's focus is about crafting your desired reality because you are already manifesting your reality, your relationships, your life. You might be doing it unconsciously. So there's a lot of ways to work on this, which is why there's more than one process. Right now, we're talking about the part that is involved with our active, aged, intentional, and conscious visualization. So think about this. When you assume a state, whether it's a victim state, an empowered state, an angry state, when you are in that mental capacity, You have an I am statement about you. I am a victim. I am not worthy. I am struggling. I am divorced and broken. I'm still healing. And also be getting in the way versus saying, I'm already healed. I healed a long time ago. And we're writing that history, for example. My point is, when you are in a state of mind, whatever it is, be honest with yourself. When I ask this question, doesn't your mind naturally go through a sequence of events, routes, and stories already playing out whatever it is you are automatically assuming? Answer that for yourself. Whatever it is you are working on, whatever your assumption is, when you are in that mental awareness and consciousness, your life and your stories and your visualization naturally flows through a very specific route. If you are agitated, you will naturally and easily create scenes in your mind or replay old ones and future ones based on the experience because you already have that assumption. I assume I'm going to have an argument when I bring up my own needs in a relationship. I assume that I'm not present for my partner and my children because I haven't in the past or because my partner keeps telling me that. Great. Those are just for awareness sake. That's the 3D, that's conditional. Take it, throw it away. We want to create the mental images that align with the state we want to manifest consciously, which means we have to change. You have to change the scene that you're playing out in your mind. You have to change the story, your narrative that you've had for 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. You go to a therapist and find out it started before you were married, when you were a child, right? You're never going to run out of, you're never going to stop finding validations for what you're going through from the 3D perspective. I want to empower you to start creating what you experience, regardless of the past, your internal dialogue, and your fears of the future. Faith in action. So we have to know what it is we're working towards. If your visualization, if your goal this week is to have a better relationship, do like I did with Gabrielle tonight and actually start drafting and crafting. What does that physically look like? Right? I'm sure that Gabrielle could talk about the sense in the room. If she's making her sacred space, her area where she has meal prep, there's going to be smells. There's going to be textures and sensations that her body's going to go through, movements, opening and closing things, cutting things, cooking things. When I bet if I asked her to, if we just spent the whole time on her right now, she could lead us through step by step and incorporate the visualization I gave her as a recommendation. If I ask her to, and she'll probably struggle with a little bit, but we'll get her there. It's a new habit. But if I ask Gabrielle to just say, hey, what's the problem? She could probably talk for 20 or 30 minutes until I stop her on what the morning scene looks like, right? It's the morning, I'm making my breakfast and my daughter's talking to me. I don't notice her. I have ADD, I don't hear her. And I constantly get a problem. The story will just keep going with all the details of what? Reality. So I want you to learn that you are already an expert at manifesting. Don't ever let any coach, any YouTuber, any book say you have to work on manifesting. You have manifested your entire life. I want you to be empowered by that. If there is a sad story to that, I want you to overcome and interrupt that narrative right now and see that that means that you are your savior. You are the person that's going to change that. Don't wait for somebody else. Don't wait for another relationship to fulfill your wound. Don't wait for the next job. Don't wait for the next paycheck to feel abundant. Alicia came on and she's one of my clients, and she's heard me say this before, and everyone here says a lot because it requires repetition. Never wait and see. I want you to see what you want and hold on to that until it actually manifests in the 3D. You will do far more beneficial work in your life and in your relationship, especially because they're a mirror. If you decide, my relationship, I don't want to keep using Gabrielle, but she gave a great example. I'd rather Gabrielle focus on she is already getting the confirmation from her partner that she's doing what he's asking her to do. She's already holding space. She's already focusing. She's already giving them their personal attention with boundaries versus I'm working on it. I'm getting better at it. right? So when it comes to manifesting, I want you to focus more on assumption versus attraction. Law of attraction, great. It's a slower process. Attracting means I have to work on my vibration, I have to elevate my mindset, and I'm then going to attract more good things. Well, if you're trying to attract a new dating situation, but you refuse to get specific, blonde, brunette, muscles, or a runner, right? Big boobs, little boobs, whatever. If you're not willing to say, I want this, and I'm going to visualize this, here's what happens. You work on your vibration. Next thing you have too many people to date. You go on 3 different dates. And I'm still going to say to you, who do you want? And you'll say, I don't know. I'm going to wait and see. Stop that right now. We don't ever want to do that. You're far better off saying, I want the guy, I want the girl, I want her to look kind of like this, I want her to have these features. There might be some resistance, right? If you're saying, but Anthony, I can't pick a blonde, I can't pick a brunette, I can't say the guy has to have a 6-pack, I can't say the girl has to look this way. That's selfish. Stop it. If you do the work and create a relationship that you truly want and desire and assume you already have it, you're now walking around in love already because it's coming from within you. Now, I've tested this theory with men specifically because believe it or not, and again, I've told you, I hate to separate the genders, but I will say this is so interesting that of all the cliches about men and women, men that I've worked with, men have a much harder time answering the question, what does she look like? Well, I want her to be hot. What does she look like? Right? And that's important. If I'm working with a guy who goes to the gym every day, but literally runs marathons, well, he probably might want to pick a woman who has a tan and say, yeah, I'm assuming that I'm going to meet a woman who also runs. She might have a tan because she runs outside. These are little details that add up to how you are already creating your reality, right? If we're going on a date and we are waiting to see if they say the right or wrong thing, and we allow that to take up space in our heart and mind because in the past, guys or girls would act like jerks, or because you better this time, you're gonna be hyper vigilant on what to look for. You're gonna look for red flags. Guess what? You're gonna see a whole lot of red flags. And I'm gonna be the guy that tells you what you don't want to hear is that you actually manifested them. You actually created them. So let's focus away from attraction, which is a slower route to manifesting. It's not as consistent, and focus more on assumption. An assumption means I believe I already got it. If you say to me, Anthony, I am working on I believe that I've done this homework and I have a conversation with my husband and my daughter and we're connecting and we're open and I'm focused on that. I'm not multitasking anymore, right? Focus on that already. If you have something that causes resistance, well, for example, if Gabrielle was pushing back and saying, but I can't, Anthony, it's not easy. And I asked her why, she would have probably told me, well, I have ADD. I'm a chronic multitasker. She would have affirmed her disempowering belief about herself. By creating a visualization that bypasses all that, we're leaving that hard part out of the way. And we are assuming that it's easy because when it finally clicks, it is easy. We are manifesting at the speed of thought. We just have to be more aware of it and realizing it. I've done work with many people on conversations that are based on conflict, going into a conversation with the soon-to-be ex-husband or wife, preparing for that conversation. Well, if I assume and if I have a tape playing in my head that when I say I want a divorce, they're going to go nuts and break things, well, I'm going to be right because I already have assumption. And the answer needs to not be, well, Anthony, the last time I told them I had a problem, they threw something and broke a dish. I get it. But if we don't let go of the 3D experience, nothing ever changes. We can't put faith in action if all we care about is what's already happening. Nothing will change. And we talk about being worthy. Oh my gosh. If you're working on your partner loving and respecting you more, I would rather you focus on assuming that you feel that way with them. They are talking to you the way you want versus remembering and noticing how many times they don't do it. Because here's the thing. And when I've worked with couples, it always happens. I've seen a partner literally show the other person the love, respect, and the worth that they've been craving, they're demanding, they're begging for. But the person, if their state of mind hasn't changed internally, they won't even hear it. And I have to play a video back to them later to prove it. And then imagine the tears or even the anger and the self-shame that comes up when a person's like watching a tape of a conversation that they swear on their life their partner was being rude and discounting them. If they change their mindset and calm down and know, I don't need my partner to validate me. I'm good anyway. I'm worthy. Then I show them their tape. They see their partner just gushing love without asking for anything in return, even as the other one is yelling at them. It's bizarre because our mental processes are so strong that they will convince us of the illusion, even if it's completely opposite of what is really going on. But it takes the experience to realize this. You have 1, 2, 3 epiphanies. You will start trusting these processes, even though in the face it looks one way. You'll learn to start trusting that something else could be happening that you're unaware of. So I like to say one of my quotes is, heaven and hell exist at the same moment in space and time. It's your perspective. It is absolutely your perspective is where all your power is. So recapping some notes here, your current awareness is on a path determined by your subconscious momentum. So your belief come from your subconscious. So if I believe I'm a victim, if I believe I'm broken, if I believe I have to be in grief because I've had this thought for so long, it's now automatic and unconscious. It's no longer serving you, right? An unconscious belief that's worth keeping around is the one that says, I'm going to instinctively jump out of the way of a moving car without even being aware of it because my body's going to respond. When it's physical imminent danger, our automatic habits keep us alive. But because we don't live in caves anymore, we're not trying to hide from lions and tigers and bears. Oh my, a little Dorothy reference there. Wow, that's funny. Wizard of Oz. We now live in a place where we're more controlled by our psychological reactions, our psychological beliefs. If I don't yell back at my partner because I disagree with what they're saying, I'm suddenly going to lose fill in the blank. We all have stories. We all have these narratives. You have to decide how long you're going to hold on to them and how you're going to interrupt that old story. So your personal narrative, your personal visualization about the things you're working on are manifesting things either that you want or don't want. How you know is track your awareness. When you think about your situation, if the story goes from one bad story with great detail, you can hear yourself responding and hear them talking and your body's getting triggered, that is unconscious visualization. I want you to change it regardless of reality. It's not serving you anymore. You're better off interrupting that thought, getting into a calm, cool, meditative state, knowing your worth regardless of any other man or woman. And then what happens, I was to ask you a question, you would naturally flow through way more positive affirmations and beliefs about yourself. I am worthy. I don't need anyone to reflect my worthiness because I know I am worthy. It's amazing how when you don't need somebody to validate you because it comes from within, suddenly everyone's validating you. I'm going to give you a silly example. I made my first YouTube video of the year. I posted on Saturday. It is completely different than anything I've ever done as far as the style and how I'm talking to the camera. To me, it's messy, right? It's almost to 1,000 views. Now, as a small-time YouTube creator, that's huge. It has comments, thumbs up, people are asking questions. And I have to say, when I made the video, I kind of approached it with like, I don't give a shit attitude. I'm just going to relax. I'm going to just speak from my heart. And if someone likes it, great. If not, I'm okay. I'm going to try something different. So I had no attachment to the process. I knew that I was going to do it for me in my new style. And guess what? It's doing better than any of my other videos have ever done in only 3 or 4 days. That's an example that I want you to thanks, Alicia. And Alicia gave me some great feedback the other day on it too, because it's new for me. My point is apply caring a little less to the things you're trying to manifest so that you can take the stranglehold, the desperation, the demand for change. Because if I'm doing this, my energy is putting that out there. And people, especially that are in my romantic relationships, are going to respond to what I'm putting out there. I'm looking for a woman that's going to give me what I need and deserve because I'm worth it. And I know what this girl did, what this girl did, what this lover did, what this wife did. I can tell you all these stories. So I know what I'm looking for. Oh my gosh. I can tell you I've been on many dates where the woman has talked to me that way. Don't do that, right? Visualize the outcome that you want. Observe the route that your fantasies and your stories automatically go through. For this to work, you have to be able to say, Anthony, or my partner, I want this. It looks like this. It feels like this when I touch it. I feel this way in my body. Here's the conversation that I can actively hear coming in out of my ear. I can see it through my first person perspective. It has to be out of your own eyeballs. Now I'm going to pause here because, again, I just know so much I couldn't put it on one document. For those of you who come from extensive trauma work, this is different than trauma work, right? So if you have trauma work, you have learned that you can't look at your past or your future through the first person perspective because you're going to re-trigger your wound. That's for your trauma work where you're working with a therapist that does have you going into these traumatic moments where you're the observer. This is different. That process is a way it is for a specific reason. Because if you were to see it from the first person, you're going to reactivate the wound. So when it comes to visualizing things you want, be very careful and notice, are you observing the scene? Are you watching yourself have a conversation with your partner or your ex or your children? Or are you literally in front of them, turning your head and talking to them? Because remember, you are the director, the actor, the writer, the producer. You're running the projector, right? And you're also in the audience watching and you're on screen. You play all the parts. This is fundamentals of laws of assumption. So skip to the end, right? So your homework tonight is to be very, very specific. I am working on this, and here are the concrete details of what it looks. Involve the 5 senses, because that's the thing that neuroscience and quantum physics has shown us, is that we are believing the illusion of the 5 senses, i.e. the matrix, because that's what we say. That's what's real, Anthony. I'm not arguing with that. I'm saying, do you want to have more of this? So when you decide what it is you want, make sure it's not abstract. We're going to talk about the shield tomorrow. And when I taught the shield to Alicia and how to describe it to me, she describes beautiful, loving sounding shield. And I was like, that's so nice. Let's start over and tell me what it actually effing looks like so I can see it on you when you're wearing the shield. That's the difference. So please don't come back tomorrow with, my visualization, Anthony, is I'm in a loving, secure, happy relationship with my partner, and you feel safe and we're passionate. You know, I'd rather you say, for passion, we have sex X number of times a week. And it's amazing. I can't wait to, and he's excited, she's excited, right? That is way more specific with one statement. Instead of saying, I am in a loving and secure, respectful relationship, what does that look like? It might look like on the day that you need support, you come in, you just throw up on the floor, you're a bawling mess, and your partner is there to pick you up and says nothing other than, I love you. What do you need from me? And you're saying, Anthony, I'm hearing my partner say it to me as they hug me over the right side. I can feel the both arms wrapped around me, squeezing me the way that only they do, right? This becomes so real and rich. You can go to that visualization 100 times a day for seconds. If you're in a high conflict relationship or going through a divorce, whatever, you can see that vision before you open the door. And I want to encourage you to do that, because if you don't, you're walking in the door with the visualization you already were having before, the one you normally have, because you haven't changed the narrative, which is, we're going to have a fight. Why? Because we all have a fight. Really talk about it. Oh, yesterday was this fight. Went on for 3 hours. And the day before that, it was a 10-minute fight. I ended up walking away and then going to the bar, right? We don't want to play those scenes anymore. You are already a master manifester. So give yourself permission to change the story, change the script, right? So looking at the document, you're going to see there's different ways of doing this. I'm focusing heavily on the visualization for a reason. So when it comes to different things, mental rehearsal, right? Again, you cannot mentally rehearse this by saying, I'm in a loving, happy, secure relationship. That is a 30-minute meditation of abstracts. You can't do that 10 times a day to change your life. But seeing the visualization of what they look like, how they're sounding, that smile on their face, right? Smelling their cologne or perfume, you can do that throughout the day and persistent repeating it until that becomes a new habit. And then it replaces the habit that says, we're going to have a fight because we always do. Right? That's one example. Mental rehearsal, employing all your senses, right? Truly embodying it. I described it, right? You don't need to go into smell, but why not? Right? Gabrielle is a perfect opportunity to go into smells because she's creating her sacred space is in her kitchen where she does meal prep, right? Because obviously her meal prep is sacred to her and she already knows what she wants to work on. So she's going to incorporate all 5 senses. Storytelling. I demonstrated that already. You can tell the story that you've been telling, or you can change the story, right? If you were going to sit across from me and I was your best friend and I said, so what's going on in your divorce, your marriage, your relationship, the new girl, the new guy you're dating? You wouldn't say, I feel so loved and respected and just stop there. You would say, I'm going to throw someone in the bus without saying her name. You would say, oh, it's going great. He takes me dancing. He wants to take care of my car when I'm out of town, even though I tell him not to, right? Over and over and over again. He's persistent, right? That is a visualization of a fact that this person didn't get until she started to learn to assume and project what she wanted to have. So there's a difference between saying love and respect versus someone who really cares for me. They show up for me. They ask how they can support me. They volunteer. They might even ignore a couple of my no's because my old habit is to say no a couple of times. Wow, they're really proving it to me in actual action. See the difference? So that's storytelling. So you would tell me that story with great detail. You would tell me it was Thursday night. We went out to this concert. This is the name of the band. Had a great time, right? Etc. It's real because of the details and the feelings attached to them. And then, of course, positive affirmations. Again, remember, you are always affirming all the damn time, just like you're always manifesting. The question is, are you in charge of what you're manifesting? Are you affirming your empowerment or are you affirming your disempowerment? And again, to use if someone has a mental thing going on, we're respecting and honoring that. If you have ADD, we respect and honor that. Please leave that out of this spiritual manifesting work. Leave that to the 3D mundane work that you have to do and honor it there. When it comes to this work, whatever you're working on, if you have 10 things in the way between where you are right now to get what you really want, if you write them all out, don't focus on those 10 things. Focus on the last one that you already have it. So that's all for today. I hope you really got a lot out of this. I will update and put the video up as soon as it's possible. I won't bother trying to make it pretty like I did yesterday. It took several hours to get that done. So as soon as it's done, I'm going to upload it. So that gave me about an hour and a half before I can do that. The worksheet is already in the Facebook group. If you have questions, email me. If you have questions, put them in the Facebook group. I really want to hear from you tonight in the Facebook group and tomorrow, what it is that you chose to focus on visualizing, and then pick one of these steps that are outlined in the workbook and go as best as you can, get at least a first draft of what that scene looks like, and make sure it's a 3 to 10 second scene, one that I can encourage you to think about multiple times a day. So thank you all so much. Please give us feedback in the Facebook group. I love to interact with you there and support you. And I will see you tomorrow when we go over your protective shield. Thank you all for showing up. Have a blessed day. Bye. Thank you.